This week on the Gruppetto, the Spring Classics have been wrapped. The old lady gave us one surprise, plus one less of a surprise. Plus we fleshed the Alps and a closer look at Remco Evenepoel's new tool to take on the clock. The final classic of the spring was the oldest of the Northern Classics. The old lady, Liege-Bastogne-Liege, with a couple of two-time winners hoping to make it three. Both Tadej Pogačar and Remco Evenepoel were on the start list, as was the man who beat them both at Amstel Gold, Matthias Skjelmose. With 250 plus kilometres to ride and almost 4,500 metres to climb, this was a long race with the usual simple story of attrition. After the breakaway was brought back and the most iconic climb in Wallonia, La Redoute, approached, it would be a case of who had the legs.
It's Tadej Pogačar's team who are waiting, who are ready, and not in this shot. Remco Evenepoel is not here. And here he goes to the front. Tadej Pogačar at the front on La Redoute. He's seated, he's moving, and straight away was a gap. Pogačar just making sure he pays the respect required to the twists and turns on the way back into the city. We're at the end of the list of superlatives. A third Liège win and the first man ever to be on successive monument podiums for 6 of them.
And that was that. The main man was on another level yet again. Good podium places for Giulio Ciccone and Ben Healy in there too. Tadej Pogačar now has as many monuments as Coppi, Girardengo and our very own Kelly. For the record, that's 9. Still 10 to go to match the all-time record setter Merckx on that front. And second place De Vlaming has 11. That's a number that Pog could reach next spring.
That's the year.
Luckily for us, he isn't Ben, but Pog is off into hibernation until the Dauphiné now, and on this form, anyone racing in May will be absolutely delighted. Now, later that same afternoon, after topping up another line on a famous palmarès, attention would then turn to a new winner. A significant milestone personally for the rider in question, for her region, her nation, and for the sport as a whole.
Kim Lacourt, can she bring this one home now for AG Insurance Soudal? Kim Lacourt's got to time this one. The sprint opens up, 200 metres to go. Kim Lacourt straight down the centre. Kim Lacourt and Pieterse, it looks like it's going to come down to between those. Kim Lacourt pulls clear. Kim Lacourt sits up and celebrates for AG Insurance Soudal. It is a first big classic victory for Kim Lacourt.
Wow, Kim Lacourt, from mountain biking to a monument. But a look at her spring and it had perhaps been coming. 9th in Binda, top 5s in San Remo and Flanders, and now the defining moment of her career to date. Mauritius is now well and truly on the cycling map. Now, talking of results that had been coming, it was mind-blowing to think that Pieterse had only ever won a single road race until earlier this week. That was that stage at the Tour. The 22-year-old multi-discipline star's worst result in 9 appearances this year had been a 10th place in San Remo. On the podium in Amstel, she won the beer drinking contest, and she'd be on the podium after Flèche Wallonne, having won the bike contest.
Is it going to become a fight between Vollering and Pieterse? Pieterse now makes a move. The world champion on the mountain bike. The multi-discipline sensation of world cycling. Pieterse makes a move. 100 metres to go. Is it going to be the classic victory for Pieterse? Pieterse is going to take her first big classic win. It is going to be a mighty performance on the Mur de Huy for Pieterse.
It started quite easy actually, and all the time there were small accelerations on the climb, but not like one really big attack. We had some breaks, but I think we were always in control with the team, and especially when we came to the local lap, the lead-outs for the climbs, I was always, I think, in 2nd position or something, because they just gave everything, and always, yeah, because then the peloton slowed down a bit, they could come back and give another lead-out, and yeah, I saw how hard they worked today, and on the bike I thought like, now I really have to finish it off to give them something back. And yeah, I'm just super happy to get it. I think I did everything good this race. I attacked, I think, where everybody says you have to attack. So I listened to my sports directors for a change.
Tadej Pogačar, in the meantime, started his journey to the Ardennes Double with possibly the most comprehensive win we've seen in Huy in quite some time. The Slovenian went early on the Mur. He got a gap and he kept the gap. Kevin Vauquelin was an impressive second, with Tom Pidcock back on a Classics podium for the first time since Strade Bianche. The Tour of the Alps is the final stage racing appointment on Italian soil before the Giro D'Italia gets underway. Nowadays, the event also covers the Austrian Tyrol region, but this year it was an Italian start, with an Italian taking the first bit of success. A day full of attacks ended with a small bunch sprint, and Giulio Ciccone was naturally excited to celebrate his first win in 2 years with his trademark celebration. Those celebrations had cold water poured all over them, however, by the UCI commissaires. Ciccone was fined for throwing his glasses. Now, I suppose rules are rules, but with sports supremos and bosses telling us we need to make more fans and new fans, a character comes along, delighting the young fan who picked them up as a souvenir in the process, adding colour and life to the event. And it's not allowed? Is there no nuance or understanding that this was an act of flamboyance as opposed to littering? Surely at a race where several finish straights seem to be just after sharp corners, something else that, by the way, is meant to be against the UCI rules, priorities you'd think would lie and must lie elsewhere, certainly considering the safety things we've talked about this year. But what's your take on it? Let us know in the comments section below the video. And anyway, let's get on with the racing. On day 2, Michael Storer backed up his March Paris-Nice stage win with more mountain madness here. Attacking on the second of 2 laps around Sterzing, the Australian star took his second win of the season at a leader's jersey too. But could his Swiss Tudor Pro Cycling team defend the lead? Well, they set about the job perfectly, getting a man in the dangerous break the day after, forcing rivals to do the chasing. But the stage would be about a different rider in the stage's big move. Young Italian Marco Frigo decided to break clear with as many as 70 kilometres still to ride. Born in Bassano del Grappa, he's made of strong stuff, and after having been close at the Giro and the Vuelta previously, he finally pulled off a first big pro win to take stage 3. Thymen Arensman decided that he could do better than that the following day, however, and in filthy weather too. 80 kilometres from the line this time, the Ineos Grenadier took off. He took advantage of the chaos and the cold after Lidl Trek had decimated the bunch. The race was also in bits behind. At times, it was like watching a long time trial. Riders all over the place. It was the longest solo victory of the season. Arensman taking it, while Storer had attacked from behind to try and save the overall race lead. However, despite a more than impressive effort, that went to the Dutchman. The gap was just 11 seconds going into the final stage around Liège in Austria, and we were in for a big battle. The Ineos Grenadiers hadn't won a stage race GC for almost a year, but with 2 big climbs still to go, Storer and his Tudor team activated beast mode. A lead out, an attack, and a gap in the main bunch for the Aussie meant that his Dutch rival was forced to play catch-up and without any teammates. There was another race going on out further in front on the stage, and that was for the stage. After 2 Decathlon Agir Desert riders attacked, it produced a nice moment for Frenchman Nicolas Prudhomme. A worker for his teammates normally, he rode to a maiden win alongside teenage teammate Paul Sixas, who was also in the hunt for his first pro prize. But at just 18 years of age, and looking every bit a mercurial talentless pro as he did in the juniors, his time will surely come, and soon you suspect. Behind that Team 1-2, Storer had put plenty of time into his rival, winning the GC in the end by a minute and a half from Arensman, who couldn't fail to be impressed himself despite his defeat. Canada's Derek G was third, while building up to the Giro D'Italia. The next World Tour stage race is the Tour de Romandie, a 6-day race around the French-speaking part of Switzerland. It begins with a time trial, and it will be World TT champion Remco Evenepoel's first stage race of the season. The race also ends with a test against the clock in Geneva, so probably time for us to take a closer look at what is an important tool in his quest to take a prestigious GC prize. The glory of summer has its roots in frozen winter. If you're a contender for the big prizes, this is a staple of the off-season. A visit to the wind tunnel to find those invaluable seconds that can make all the difference months down the line.
Is there any big difference with Remco in his position that you need to change or not?
So in terms of position, today really what we're looking at is just two different options for the setup, and then again looking at that stack height balance for different courses.
It's my 7th season as a pro, so definitely my body and the muscles have changed over all those years. So sometimes you just cannot sit in the same position anymore, and then you have to make some changes.
Let me know how the trainer feels. We want you 175, 200 watts, pretty mellow effort.
I used to not really enjoy it because the sessions were like 8 minutes a time, so that was actually quite long to stay in the position and always having the full tension and pressure on the arms.
So you're going to do 4 minutes, whereas in the past you'd have been in here for 7 or 8 minutes. So you can do twice as many runs for the same amount of fatigue.
And it's for everything with the angle?
So we're going to do constant wind speed 50 Ks and change the angle.
Okay. But now they made kind of a new system where the sessions are like 4 minutes 20. So that's a bit more comfortable to just do the repeats. Today I enjoyed. That's a good thing.
What we're looking at is kind of the balance of stack height for aerodynamics and cycling performance. The higher up on the bike you are, the more powerful you are, but the more drag you have. So it's always a balancing act between those two factors, especially on stages, I think, with a lot of climbing.
The showpiece time trials of 2024 were on flat courses, but this year's Tour de France presents a different challenge altogether. A test against the clock in the Pyrenees.
This is phenomenal! Look at the clock! Solid gold for this man, Evenepoel, Olympic champion!
When I came here in 23, we tested all in for the Olympics. We just wanted the fastest setup because we knew Paris was pan flat and a quite fast course.
Remco Evenepoel on debut at the Tour de France, the world champion, wins a stage of the Tour de France for the first time in his career.
The TT in the Tour, actually, I was quite fast. So we really went all in for the fastest setup. And now we were more thinking about what's gonna be the result if it's a bit more hilly. Would I be able to still push the same power, whether it's flat or not? So it's true that now we just wanted to look for a setup that would be beneficial for the Tour in 25.
Of course, every experiment needs a control sample, and the comparison here is the final stage of last year's Tour, and that long drag up out of Monaco.
The last stage in the 2024 Tour de France, we had like this 8-kilometer climb, and after 5 kilometers I was feeling quite a heavy load in my legs, and it was because of my hip angle was completely closed. So that's something I wanted to check, if we would go up in front for like 1 to 5 centimeters. What would the difference be in the hip angle and the back angle? Those kind of things I wanted to check more in the bike fit with Retool. But then in the tunnel we checked also whether there would be a penalty in the CDA.
And yes, CDA, that's coefficient of drag to the man or woman on the bike. To you and I, it's the amount of resistance the air or wind has on the rider. Clothing, helmets, bike frames are continuously being refined in the search for more aerodynamic lines, which buy the rider crucial seconds on the road.
What we'll do is start here, and then you tell me where, at what point, and the scale disappears.
Yes.
Right there?
We just changed the visor actually right now, because what happened was he went higher up on his hands, and now it was hitting the visor and forcing his head up.
How much difference does it make putting that lower visor on for him?
Well, it's running right now, so we'll see. Compared to your best from last year, you're only like 2 counts slower.
I'm not cheating here. It was a bit disappointing in first place because everything that we wanted to try was slower than the baseline setup. But then in the end we tried something with the helmet, something new, and there were 2 things that became quicker.
No, this is good. Now that we have more room to play with the sunglasses, that helps us with the stack height.
So yeah, sometimes it's a bit disappointing, like I said, but when you find something that clearly shows that it's a bit more quick, then you're kind of excited about it and really happy and satisfied. So sometimes it's worth to be like for 6 hours in the tunnel, because then at your last test you can still find the fastest setup.
And you can see Remco in action at this week's Tour de Romandie. Live and on demand, of course, on TNT Sports and Discovery+. The classics might be over, but that means that Grand Tour season now begins. The Giro is on the way, but the Vuelta Femenina starts already this Sunday with a team time trial in Barcelona. Next week we'll have a proper look into the full route before it makes its way inland and up to a finish high in Asturias. We'll also look at the Giro D'Italia's opening weekend in Albania. Lots to come. Exciting, isn't it? For now, enjoy the racing this week. See you next time on the Gruppetto. Goodbye.
This is the Giro, the world's most beautiful race. They'll be fighting until Rome. It's Pog, in pink, perfection.
Bravo, bravo, bravo! L'ultimo gladiatore nella città eterna!
A super show from a super showman.